Hello everyone, welcome to your channel Data Science Studio, and today we are going to start with day 15 of Python programming for data science. So let's get started. In today's session we will be talking about a very important data structure in Pandas, which is DataFrame, and we'll be talking about a couple of properties and methods that we can use to do the data cleaning and processing for a given data set. So here, first of all, we have to understand that what is a data frame. So a data frame represents a tabular data that contains multiple columns which can be of different types. So a data frame can have columns of multiple data types. It could be integer, it could be float, it could be string, it could be boolean, and the data frame has both row index and column index. Since it is tabular data, it will have both row index as well as column index. Now here we are going to use a Titanic dataset, which is a freely available dataset, including in the Seaborn library. So we will just read the file. If you want to read a file in Pandas, you have to use the pd.read_csv method. Now what is pd? So this pd is actually the object of the class Pandas, and we are accessing the method read_csv within the Pandas library. So if you read this, now the file is in the variable Titanic_data, and if you want to see the type of this variable, if you want to see the type of Titanic_data, it is a data frame object. Now next is head method. So if you want to view the top few rows of a data set, you can make use of the head method. So here you get the top 5 rows of the data set. Similarly, if you want to see the bottom 5 rows of the dataset, you can make use of the tail method. And this Titanic dataset will be using throughout to our exploratory data analysis and our data frame research and our visualization as well, so that you are consistent in terms of following one dataset, and then you can play around with your own set of data with using the same codes. Now here are a couple of functions. When we are doing the exploratory data analysis, we will be going through them. Now there is another important method which is called as info. So the info method actually displays the information about the column names, number of non-null observations, that is very important, and total number of observations and data type of each variable. So here if you run, you can see that here it says that range index is 1309 entries, which means there are 1309 observations in the dataset, and these are the different columns, and these are the non-null values. So if the number of observations anywhere is less than 1309, then it means that the particular dataset or the particular variable is having missing values. So here we can see that the cabin is having lot of missing values. There are few missing values in age, and there are few missing values in the embarked as well. Now you have the data type as well. Data type specify what kind of data variable it is, whether it is a continuous variable or whether it is a categorical variable. So for example, name is a object. So it is a categorical kind of variable, but we don't use name in the model because that will not have any influence on the data set. Similarly, you have gender, which is again a categorical variable, and you have ticket, which is again a categorical variable, and all other variables are either integer or float, which means they are continuous in nature. And if you want to understand what is the difference between continuous and categorical variable, please do watch out my statistics playlist. There I have discussed everything in detail. Next method, which is available for data cleaning and exploration, is shape. So shape actually tells us it returns a tuple. So shape method returns a tuple representing the total number of rows and columns in a data frame. And there is a property called as columns that will specify the names of the columns present in the data set, like this. Now another important method is, let's say my data set have a lot of data types. It could be object, it could be categorical, it could be float, it could be integer. Now let's say that I want to filter only data types where it is object or categorical in nature. I want to select data types where it is only numeric in nature. Then in that case, you can use select underscore dtypes method. So if we run this, you can see all the categorical variables alone are selected in the data frame using the select dtypes method. Similarly, if you want to select only numeric data, you can go with include equal to number. So here you have to pass parameter include equal to number, or include equal to float, or include equal to integer, and you can pass the different data types which are available, and it will show you like this. Now, if you want to understand what are the different data types of all the columns, you can make use of the dtypes method. So dtype will actually tell you what is the property of the variable or the column used in the data frame. Next method which we are going to talk about is access. So this method actually returns the row access and column access labels. It is just for your information. For example, in case of row access, it is a integer which is a step equal to 1, which means it is a sequence of values from 0 to 1309, and your column index is actually all these column names which are present in the data set. The size method will actually tell you it is a multiplication of the total number of rows and total number of columns. It will tell you the total number of elements which are present in the data set. So in the whole data set of 1309 rows and these many columns, there are 14,399 elements or items present in the data set. So that is the use of the size method. It is helpful to understand how big your data is. There is another method which is called as type. So as type is actually used to convert your data set into multiple categories. For example, here I am converting the P class into categorical variable and survived also as a category variable. So now P type, P class and survived is actually converted into the categories. Now if I see the info, so here also it is a P class and survived is a categorical variable. It is showing as integer, but you will have the different categories present in the data set. So if you want to use as type, you have to pass a dictionary which will specify your column name followed by value as the conversion which you want to do it. For example, if you want to convert in integer, or if you want to convert in float, or if you want to convert in category, you have to pass the parameters like this. Another important method which is called as copy method. So there are two ways in which you can copy a data frame. One way, you can just use the copy method. So when you use the copy method, if you are making any changes in the original data frame, it will be reflected in the copy as well. But if there is an attribute called as deep equal to true, so if you set the deep equal to true parameters while copying a data frame, if you are making any changes in any of this data frame, it will not reflected in the other data frame. That is the concept of deep attribute. So if deep attribute is set to true, then any changes made to the copied data frame will not be reflected into the main data frame. So if you do like this, and both will give me the same output, but it is in the difference. If I am making any changes in the Titanic data, it will be reflected in Titanic data copy also. But in this particular case, it will not be reflected because deep attribute is set to true. There is another important method. If I want to get any item at a particular row, comma, column intersection, I can use the at method. So I can pass the I want to see the first row and column is name, what is the value present. So it can do like this. It is just from the information perspective. The next very important method is lock. So lock method is actually used to access the data frame rows and columns based on their respective labels. So that is very important. Lock is used for the label location, and there is a subsequent method which is iloc. Iloc, in case instead of label, it uses the index location. So here if you see, since my index is numeric in nature, I am passing the index labels 1 to 10 and I am passing the column name. So this is the one way of subsetting your data. So it will give me only 3 column names and all the rows. So here is your data set. Similarly, in the second example, what it is happening is it is actually giving the first 10 rows along with all the columns between P class and age. So since it is a column, so it will consider all the columns between P class and age, like this. You can also give a filter when you are accessing the dataset or the data frame. So here what I am doing is, in case of row, I am only filtering those rows where the age is greater than 30, and I am filtering the P class column, and I am seeing the top 10 rows. So I am seeing the top 10 rows of the P class column where the age is greater than 30. So this kind of subsetting the data based on the condition is also very important use case. So here are the values. You can also assign a value. For example, if you want to change any value of the row as 0. So here if I am not specifying column, by default it will be considered only row. So I am specifying the first row, which is the 0 index, everything will be changed to 0. So here you see everything is changed to 0. So you can do assignment also using the lock method of the property of the data frame. Like this, I am trying to set the P class variable, the first 10 rows as 5. So if you see the P class, the first 10 rows is set to 5. Now next important method is the iloc. The iloc property of the data frame accesses rows and columns based on their respective index position. In lock, it is label. Remember, you are accessing the rows and column based on the label, but in case of iloc, it is based on the index. So both the columns and rows will be accessed based on the index, which is the integer value. Now here I am accessing the first 10 rows of the dataset and the first 5 columns of the dataset using the iloc method. So here is your data. So it gives me 0 to 10 rows and it gives me the first 5 columns of the data frame. Similarly, if I want just rows, so 5 is to 10 means 5 to 10 rows of the data frame, like this, all the columns. So if I am not specifying by comma, by default it will be all the columns. So here I am passing a method on to the iloc. So I am trying to filter all those rows which are actually even, which means that x dot index modulus of 2 is equal to 0, which means return all those rows where the modulus is equal to 0, which means it is a even number, and I am selecting the first 5 rows out of that. So if you do this, it will give me the first 5 even rows of the dataset. So here also you can pass a lambda function or any kind of condition to get your rows out of the dataset. So I think by now you should be very comfortable with some of the basics functionalities of working with data frame. There are many functions we'll be discussing one by one. There will be a couple of sessions on the Pandas DataFrame, which is a very important topic from data science perspective. So we will have our next session on other methods or properties which are present in a data frame in Pandas. So please subscribe, like and comment your channel, and please provide your valuable feedback on the content, and stay tuned and stay connected. Thank you.